Hello and good afternoon. You are watching the Policy Times Unleashing India Global Web Summit series. Policy Times, as world's first policy and development media, is absolutely committed to the cause of nation building, national development under the Unleashing India Global Web Summit series, under the chairmanship of Dr. P.Sekhar, who is also chairman of Unleashing India and Global Smart City Panel, who is relentlessly working on nation building through a very unique and innovative concept called the secured governance. Who Dr. Sekhar also is the architect of this concept. Under this Policy Times and us, we are trying to find a lot of innovative ways through which we can provide innovative solutions in nation building. One of the most important and conventional challenge and important aspect of any nation is how to raise funds for its development activities. Funding is so whether it is a startup, it's a corporate or a nation, getting the funds for development is very important. Today's episode is dedicated to how can we innovatively raise funds for all the development activities that India, a rising country like us, with 135 billion population, a lot of startups and a huge, one of the best startup architecture, as well as a lot of global companies, visionary entrepreneurs. So taking all aspects together, India is one of the most promising lands and next 30 to 50 years belongs to this country. But how we can fund our development would be a very important aspect to realize the potential that this country has. And today's episode is actually dedicated to that. I would be extremely happy to hear two of the real eminent experts who actually has been working for decades on funding and fundraising, especially innovative funding and fundraising. We will hear from them what they suggest. Dr. Sekhar has also proposed a very innovative idea and concept of funding. I will just say it quickly, 2-3 aspects. The very conventional fundraising options and opportunities are taxation. The other latest experiments that different governments are doing are through wealth creation, innovation, entrepreneurship, and industrialization. So, and now a lot of technology patent and a lot of technological advancement and the monopoly of their corporates also gives them a lot of different alternatives to funding. But the fresher and formal outlook will be given by our experts. I would request Dr. Sekhar to kindly take over the session and also kindly present the innovative alternative that you have identified under our broader architecture, secure governance. Over to you, Dr. Sekhar.
Thank you, Akram. Yes, we are going to talk something very interesting today. There is going to be a great innovative way in which there are options available for funding, because today, we need, because of this COVID attack and ongoing economic slowdown and so many things which are all draconian, which are happening, which needs to be solved. Technically, today is 125th session. We're very happy that something which started very casually one little more than a year ago, it is going on in a very good and steady platform with extremely good, very welcome, eminent people coming, sharing their views, sharing their various ways in which different sectors can grow. I usually rush through a small presentation. Today, I will be actually giving the presentation because this is something which is a very different approach to the normal funding scenario. So I will go through the actual presentation. It will not be a rushing through today. This is because when we do strategic funding, there are various grades. Okay, because funding is something which is required by anybody, whether it is a country or an individual or any way we see our life. We need money as we go forward. So funds of different grades are there, will be there, and needs to be used properly. And whenever there's a calamity, your fund automatically dips. Now, when it dips, it depends on the way we look at it, on how we, how we take this forward. So today's topic we have put is enhanced role for strategic innovative funding options. Options, we have used the word because it's not a policy today. Options for national reincarnation. Now, first few slides today, I will not spend too much time. First few slides is, of course, about India and India's, diversity, India's culture, everything which is different, which is, some are novel, some are very challenging. And second, of course, is on COVID. Now, COVID being, again, a World War III attack on India, on the world. And even though it is so minuscule, so insignificant, but it has really destroyed everything, destroyed the confidence, destroyed the economy, destroyed the, without putting a single bullet, it has become bigger than any of the world wars. And so we need to have various ways. Now, this particular small statement, which is composed as a preamble to what we are going to say. Secured fund infusion suggested in this presentation is to take care of huge loss created by COVID pandemic, along with other disasters and ongoing economic slowdown. Please note that we are not only talking of COVID, we already had a slowdown in economy, which we were trying to solve. In the meantime, COVID attacked. It is just like an injured man getting a bigger blow. That is what has happened. And the funds generated through this unique system will ensure is a word which you are using because we are not talking it as a tax, ensure all financial transactions and provide liquidity against these and future calamities and ensure techno-economic growth through secured governance for seamless, self-sustained national growth. Yes, that is an objective of today's presentation. So now when you look at India's budget, India collects a receipt of 34 lakh crores and has an expense almost equal to 34 lakh crores. That is to balance it out. But let us see what really is at the behind the budget. We are having a carry forward debt of almost 135 lakh crores in Government of India's budget. Okay, this is a debt, which means there's something to be repaid off. Then on top of it, we have a bigger, glorified number. On the state budgets, when you go, there is 5,301 lakh crores, which is carry forward. Now, these are all the various states, how much percentage, what is the total debt. These are all Reserve Bank numbers. There is no thing which is sort of surmised or calculated. This actual numbers put in the Government of India and Reserve Bank status. So that is 5,300 crore on the state and almost 135 lakh crores on the Government of India, which is carrying us in debt. How can a 35 lakh crore, which is collected in taxes, ever be able to repay back this particular type of a loan when these loans are really growing up by the day, by the month, by the year on both fronts, state government fronts as well as Government of India fronts? So we have to look at alternate ways. We have to look at different schemes. We have to look at very, very innovative way in which some funds can come into the system. Secured governance has a very good methodology in which it says through value valuation, we can have generation of funds. Because whatever we do in economic, techno-economic world, it always creates values around whatever is done. And that value can bring back into the system. So what we did was we extrapolated this to the finance model, which I'll go through in another few minutes. While going through, I am going to give a little overview. In the overview, there'll be alternating draconian numbers and a solution numbers. Draconian numbers will be like what I said right now. 5,300 lakh crores is sitting on top of our head as a debt. After the Government of India, state government heads is on our head as Indians. So that is draconian. We'll give it a solution by which how this money can come, where it can come, how it can come. And again, we go back to some of the pandemic, some of the other things which are going to attack us, and how we will solve that, what it will be taking. It will take about 15 minutes time to finish my today's presentation. So again, overview of our banking system. I need not go into the numbers. We have got a very good, robust, and very well enlightened, and one of the our speaker today was MD of one of the private sector, may not be a bank, at least a financial system. And all have got a huge, respect and the way things are going on for these systems. So these are the total number of large financial institutions, small financial institutions, and cooperative banks. And I'll not go into too much into depth of system because I'm not going to analyze it. And I'll also tell you why I'm bringing that in picture, because whatever is being suggested has to be finally rooted through the system. And what is this slide is very, very important. Now, till a few years back, almost 61% was more of cash and non-listing. Today, those are all dropped down. And much of whatever we are doing is electronic payment system, and which is growing by the day. Okay. That is what is the gist of this particular slide. Now, here, not to go into depths of this percentage and all, it is to say that, there are good deposits available in the banks, and which is moving, because the way we are generally told XYZ ran away with money, why that this happened, that happened, which is all true, which has to go into a different dimension. But that does not bring down anything to do with the banking sector. Banking sector is very, very stable. And even the smallest bank where there are more of, bank closing down and all, but they are also, in terms of numbers, they are quite large, and one of them failing here and there does not disturb the system. And the other portion, which is not so correct, has to be taken care in a legalistic way. Okay. Now, we will see where do we come in picture in terms of the what are we trying to say and do. So, key payment trends, we are saying that, there are very big technology companies which has come and is supporting the banking sector. Many fintech companies are there, and by which they are all getting stable, very, very reliable. Even though there are problems, we are also having 1-2 slides on the cyber security, which is required, because a few things gets leaked because of the security problems. But again, what I repeat is surmountable. Okay. Now, COVID impact on Indian economy. Now, let me come to the draconian portion. This is what it was, and it was having an ongoing economic slowdown till 2019. Okay. Now comes 2020, a big bang, COVID. And COVID destroys, that's why we have put India and the world together. All are published numbers. Nothing is simulated by me or our system. So by these numbers, we are saying that COVID is trying to, as if, it's a programmed attack on the human beings, and more so as Indians, because India was already going through a small financial problem. And India, being the second largest country in the world with 1.35 billion people, obviously will get affected because more number of people are there. And we already had people who are just growing up, who are just on a verge of a good threshold breakthrough, which got affected, and affected really bad by COVID. Even now we are struggling at it, even though things are opening up. Now, other disasters, because when you see COVID, even though people who are talking of, green economy and all, people only talk of the man-made disaster, which has to be taken care. We are not saying it's not taken care. But there are so many natural disasters, which are all, in fact, even in a way bigger than man-made disasters. Many of the forest fires, many of the volcanoes, many of the earthquakes, many of the tsunamis, and, heavy rains, heavy, things which are of a different grade. There are places where the whole mountain is falling for, because of rain, or because of volcano, or because of earthquake, or anything. So these are all, worldwide disasters. And in disasters, we are not lagging behind. Again, we got, even I computed the major disasters in India in the last 20 years. So many disasters have happened in cutting across state, right from Kashmir to Kanyakumari to West Bengal to, Gujarat. So this has not left us anyway, and this keeps happening, and this will keep happening. Whatever we do, we can never have a hold on the natural disasters. And each natural disaster brings its own, economic, financial loss, human loss, and also the psychological loss. So we need to have a system, because, today, because of the way the media is spreading, even if something happened in the corner of some state, it just comes into everybody's eye. So we have to have a system by which, this particular thing is taken care from all aspects. So impact of COVID on financial losses are, in fact, it has not even been fully calculated, but it is really on a bad footing, in terms of lakhs of crores, it is huge. So this gives rise to a huge challenges to every sector, starting from the banking sector. Banking sector itself was stuttering how to operate a secure system, how to operate a system in which people can have full trust that their money is safe, their transactions are safe, and their confidence is there. So bankers are trying their best to put things in order. Again, here I will not go into point by point of things which are written. As I said, I will finish this in 15 minutes time. So, and I will now go to the whatever we are actually saying. Okay. Now, what we are actually saying is, so of course, second is many companies have got closed down, even pre-COVID. And now post-COVID, we are saying almost 59% of the startups, micros, medium, all are expected to scale down the operation, or some of them may even shut down. 80% Indian companies have witnessed great cash flow difficulty. 50% of companies are facing operational issues. So these are all again done by surveys done by various associations, various government entities, and this. Then cybercrime is another thing which is also giving. Just few of them are negative, but we have to understand why we have to get a different way approach. So cybercrime is also another item in which there is a good loss, different type of, it's 1.25 trillion rupees, not dollars. So which is not such a big amount, but it's big enough to be, has to be taken care. And there's an ongoing, because of this COVID, many people are sitting at home, idle mind is the devil's workshop. So they would like to do something by which, they earn something by a system, by taking advantage of the system's failure. Now here comes what we call as our suggested solution. What we did was, we started analyzing what is the minute by minute, day by day, month by month, year by year transactions going on in the system. We found that the numbers are really, really good, and the numbers are really, really what I would say enchanting, because the numbers were really unbelievable, so much unbelievable that we had to go to the system people and say whether these numbers are right. If you see, just in 1 month in July, just for example, it is lakh crores on top. It is 44 lakh 8,000 lakh crores. Okay, we were really saying this lakh, that lakh. Boy, yeah, people say yes, no, both are correct. Okay, in fact, almost for a few days we were only reconfirming that the figures are right, because they are from the, of course, Reserve Bank data. Still, we were thinking whether by mistake somebody has put lakh twice, but it is the real numbers. So when these type of numbers are going on a daily basis, monthly basis, yearly basis, then there's a huge flow of funds which are going on the system, independent of which sector, what sector, which we have covered in the other one. This is that 34% which is going through the channel. It means there is much more which is not going through the channel, but which is also there. So when we made a detailed survey of this, we found that even if you take 0.01%, listen to this carefully, 0.01%, that means I am taking 1 rupee in 10,000 rupees, or it could even be 0.001%. That means 1 rupee in 1 lakh rupee, which means nobody would find the significance of a 1 rupee going in 10,000 rupees, or 1 rupee going in 1 lakh rupee, or 1 rupee going even 1,000 rupees. Okay, so we are talking of a fraction of an amount. If it is taken out for ensuring your transaction, which means by this money, there's a lot of work to be done. We are not saying this is a cakewalk, by which we are saying that because we don't want to conflict with the tax system and other things which are going on, because unnecessarily, it will give rise to deep, is it one more tax? Oh, will this come, will that go? Will that, then this will go for next 20 years of debate. So we are saying that this is something by which government is sanctifying. I am giving it to my own wife some money, or my own son, or somebody is giving to two companies are transferring from X to Y, or a government to government transfers are taking place, multiple. In anything, if you have a small fraction of such a small amount, people, we believe when we talk to many, people said they would not mind. Okay, so if such a transaction is taken out, and we are calling it as a cess just for the thing, but the cess is to ensure the transaction, which means whatever transaction you are tying is stamped as yours. Okay. Once Again, the words are slightly debatable. Words are slightly to be coined properly, but it has to be understood in what mechanism and why we are saying this. So when such a money is taken out and kept as a separate kitty, lo and behold, the type of numbers which are coming are almost like 5,000 lakh crores per annum, of course. Okay. So it is a baffling number, because then it takes care of even that 5,300 lakh crores, which is the state's, economy. So otherwise, this all will keep, these debts will keep continuing. So we are saying that there will be a small token 0.01% to 0.001%. Okay, that's what we are trying to say. And also we are trying to suggest that, where does money go for? Because banks are doing this, banks should get 10% of it. Suppose they leave 5,000 lakh crores, 500 lakh crores will go to the bank. Defense will take 20%. Infrastructure development will take 20%. Education, skill development, sports will take 10%. Miscellaneous will be 10%. Remaining 10% will be Government of India. Another 10% is state bank, state government. Another 10% is RBI. Again, suggested there could be any amount of changes in this. This should not go to a common kitty, and then, if government becomes rich is also bad, government becomes pauper is also bad. No, today government is pauper, which is bad. Government cannot be rich by this much amount going to a single kitty. So it has to divide it into various users, state especially, which are 5,000 crores. They will at least be able to remove their debts in the next 10 to 14 years if such a money comes. Now, cash transaction we are saying should be calculated at 0.5% was suggested by some of the senior bankers. It may be a little high, maybe 0.1% will itself be good. So 0.5 to 0.1 to 0.5. It should be higher so that we come down on this thing. But again, it's again a very small fraction. When we say 0.5 or 0.5, is saying that in 1,000 rupees, I'm going to have 10 rupees as my transaction fees. So once this particular system is sort of how the economy changes, then there should be a drastic change in the economic this thing. That means there'll be a whole rational monetization to support infrastructure. That means infrastructure will go into the highest level. Today, the moment we talk of infrastructure, we say money is not there. The moment we talk of education, we talk of that 1% government wanted to put, they didn't put 6%, they put 5%. And the moment you go to anything, everybody is crying. Defense says, no, how can we be so strong or so good? We don't have the money to buy the system. And you go to tourism sector, you go to any sectors, all sectors are semi-bleeding, and especially post-COVID, many systems on, especially which consist of traveling, tourism and all have become totally zero. So all the systems will start having the type of funds which are required. Of course, conditions apply. It is not something which is, on a cakewalk, because, somebody pointed out. That means you are saying that, okay, if cyber attack, somebody can just take 10,000 crores and then from this fund, 10,000 crores will come. No, we are not saying that. This is a buffer available, conditions apply. You have to find out whether that person himself has taken or, it has gone through this thing and how it has gone, why it has gone. Legal things have to take care. But at least the loser will know that, yes, it is like an insurance, the money will come back. Okay. But if he himself is a culprit, he should better be taken care in a different way. So it is not free money available, and which can make more people go into negative terrains. So I'm now coming to the end of it. All these things we are talking in terms of whatever we call as the secured governance. Secured governance doctrine is how there will be self-sustained economy, how there can be money coming from the system. Today, what happens with all this problem, we are saying, oh, can we go to World Bank? Can we go to IMF? Can we go to something? Can we go to some advanced countries to ask for money? Today, this is a money sit with us inside our system, flowing into our system, and continuously, minute by minute, on a per day, per month, per year transaction, which we have seen. So from that, we are just taking 0.01%. So which should not harm anybody. Okay. Even if it is two sister companies doing transaction, if because of this the government stamp is there on the transfer, then I don't think so. We are calling it even the word insurance, because of course, the words we have to coin it properly, because everything could have its own implication. But the idea is that the system will take care within the fund available in the system. So when you talk of secured governance, one of the largest project in the world, which is a 24 smart cities going on, which is being there, since it's an extension of secured governance. So I thought I'll put this slide also to know that this is not something new, that, untested field. And based on this, I have written a series of about 100 books on various aspects of what the secured governance can do. And coincidentally, it has got more than 100 people, including, I know, both the people who are in today's panel, who have given appreciation notes, and right from Mr. Narendra Modi himself, and that is giving a good vibe. So with that, I will close my presentation and introduce my two great panel members. One is our Suneet Maheshwari. He is a doyen of India's infrastructure, India's finance, and a person who has actually been in banks, companies which has done a very great amount of starting of infrastructure development in India, and also has played very great role in many of the policy formation, policy planning and all. And I would request him to first give a 10-minute lecture. And then, of course, our Mr. Ashutosh has come. I think he had come. I feel, yeah, in the beginning he was late. Okay, first Mr. Suneet, and then Ashutosh.
Okay, I think.
Yeah, Ashutosh, I didn't see you. Thank you. Welcome. Yeah, Suneetji.
Has this connection got frozen?
Hello. Yeah, I think yes.
Hello.
Yeah. We can hear you. We can hear you now.
Yeah, there is some problem with Zoom today. It is logging out off and on. Okay, coming back to our this thing, I think what I would like to put across is, from a government's point of view, we have to look at any revenue collection also from the point of the cost of collection. Okay, and so when you look at income tax, personal income tax, okay, this is the, shall we say, the bane of all the problems, because all the income avoidance or tax avoidance is happening because of this. And a lot of undeclared economy, as we call it, is this is the cause of it. So there have been a lot of discussions on, is this the best method? Because the net revenue collection probably more goes to maintain the income tax department and the way to collect it. So the net revenue addition is not maybe as much as corporate taxes or other indirect taxes are. So eventually, I think we have to continually look at sources of revenue which are efficient in collection. So this, I would call it cess or surcharge that Dr. Sekhar has put down in his presentation, and we have tried to do some work on this also. Essentially saying this, we try and generate an auxiliary income which will take care of certain critical needs of the economy, for which maybe funding is not found easily today. Healthcare is one of them, or a couple of other aspects that can be prioritized to first take care of with the collection. And the collection, let it not be too, we suggested first, we put down two scenarios of 0.1 and then 0.01, simply because that gives you a sense of range. This is a political economy. I personally feel that 0.05 should be an achievable one perspective. But essentially, this means that when you are collecting that kind of money, and this is all based on transactions, it's very efficient in terms of capturing that money. There is a banking system already. They will just do it and log it into thing, and then you can use it for the priority uses. I would actually, after Dr. Sekhar today presented these slides, I would say that after some urgent uses are done. Maybe one thing that, because nobody in India is really thinking of repayment of that humongous debt we have created. Okay. And unfortunately, we are selling our PSUs cheap for reasons of our own. I mean, we are tying ourselves down to saying that we will not be able to put a broad-based board, we will not be able to hire professionals. And so we are selling our public sector. Let's say IDBI Bank today, it's running at 35, 36, 37 rupees a share, whereas banks of equivalent capability or size are probably quoting at 100. So I think the government needs to also think in terms of revenue collection, which will yield the right amount of revenue, and hopefully even, for example, in the case of public sector, get the right price for the asset they have created. Now, there was a time when people were willing to pay $6 billion for VSNL and BSNL. MTNL and BSNL, and today I think it's a loss-making entity.
Mm-hmm.
So what I'm trying to say is, now one could have actually used the public sector receipts to retire the debt, but now the way our public finances are, I don't think we are contemplating that. So we have to create revenues not only to fund expenditures that are urgent and immediate, but also to think in terms of creating a corpus to repay debt, creating a corpus for India has, let's say, cyclones, it has natural disasters, not to speak of COVID-related issues. And I think we need to create a new revenue. The methodology suggested is actually very efficient, is not too much of an amount, and I think will help the government gradually shift away from conventional taxation methods to more transaction-oriented taxation methods, where the chances of, shall we say, not capturing the revenue is much lesser, and also the cost of collection or the cost of capturing that revenue is much, much lesser. So I think this secured revenue raising exercise that has been suggested is a step in that direction. I hope the government considers implementation to something towards that. I think we need to make a beginning, and then we can always calibrate it going forward.
Thank you. Now, Ashutosh, of course, he's in government, in the public sector in government, and very dynamic in his thinking and very astute in his planning, and somebody who would, go out of the way from the call of his duty to the call of the nation building. Ashutosh, in such a thing, see the light of the day when it comes to, this is not harming anybody. This is not putting hand in anybody's pocket. Here, there's a transaction which is taking place when there is somebody's money and just a smallest fraction, 1 in 10,000. Can you please highlight your thoughts?
Very good afternoon, Dr. Sekhar and Mr. Maheshwari. A pleasure being with you again. And I would congratulate Dr. Sekhar for coming up with another brilliant idea that we have been debating even offline otherwise. Our holy scriptures, if we go back, even there it is prescribed that the taxation should be in a way like what the sun does in evaporating excess water lying on ground without hurting anybody, and then collecting the vapors and distributing that rain where it is most essential. What a beautiful way of saying how the taxation should be. Somebody taught us years, centuries back, and your idea exactly gels with that. See, when you collect taxes, it should not hurt the individual and should not be causing a concern to the productive lot or the creative lot. Today, we end up taxing somebody who is a wealth creator and end up giving to somebody who is enjoying doles at his cost. It is good, it is essential, but at the same time, it discourages, what do you call, entrepreneurship. It discourages somebody to go beyond norms and create wealth. So this idea, if it can actually replace the conventional way of personal taxation can be a big refinement which would give fillip to entrepreneurship, give a boost to people thinking beyond and create wealth, which would ultimately benefit the nation, create employment, create happiness. So I see this as a beautiful idea. What can be done is, in order to avoid any kind of resistance, various filters can be built in by more data analytics on the way this revenue is coming. So certain small value transactions, as you already have said, that we would not be collecting any money for certain below amount, that can be further refined. Absolutely. That can be further refined. Then certain sectors, certain transactions, certain businesses, certain services sector, where you have frequent transactions, not essentially because somebody is round tripping, but the nature of business, there also you can redefine. But on the whole, this can be the most efficient way of tax collection at lowest decent or hard burn for the person who is paying, and can be linked to quality of service. As you rightly said, if you have a secured, assured, time-bound transaction, nobody would mind paying 2 rupees, 3 rupees, or 10 rupees more, because you are ensuring that you make his or her life more smooth. You simply imagine, if I do away with the pain behind my back of sticking to a schedule for filing my income tax return. Why? With IT systems coming in place now, no longer somebody has to actually go and file and do a formality and pay somebody for doing that. When this can be automatically done to take care of all transactions, and gradually the country and entire globe is moving towards digital currency. That being the norm, we can promote this and at the same time create a, what do you call, a negativity towards cash transactions. It will bring in more accountability, more transparency, ensure that what is intended gets done. So I think a beautiful idea. And this should become the norm and should have enough filters and enough protections to take care of not hitting the real hand-to-mouth population. And the money that gets collected and so smoothly gets connected using IT platforms can then be plowed in to various segments of the society and our nation building activities, which would help the country grow. So I'm all for it. Wonderful idea, Dr. Sekhar.
Thank you. Now, I see a few more points which are built into this. One is, of course, like you rightly said, it should not be below 10,000 rupees. Don't touch it, because there's no point, because it's less than 1 rupee. 8 annas. Today we don't have 8 annas in a real sense. That is one. Second is, few experiences I had. Suddenly one bank chairman, when he said, "Oh, Dr. Sekhar, what are you talking? There's one more tax. There's so many taxes." He misunderstood 0.01 as 10%. I said, "I am talking of 0.0 what? 0.01%. Are you really sure? I thought it was 10%. I said, "No, I'm talking of 0.01%. Oh, then it is good. Then they only suggested that.
Sorry for interrupting you. The other day we were discussing on it. As I said, there was a share transaction tax in between that was brought in. That was on a similar line. This is broad basing it further.
Correct.
And what happens is, if you do not add everything as a cess, I'm a salaried person. Every day you add one more straw, it becomes the last straw on the camel's back. Don't do that. Instead, what we can do is, once this volumes actually, because we have now huge IT systems across all banks, now it is no longer just pepper guess, it is more or less reality, and the numbers can come on board exactly as they are. In this case, we can actually offload personal taxation from a lot of brackets and transfer this to this area. I think this should be a very efficient way of tax collection.
Correct.
And broad-basing the income tax collection on the whole.
Only thing, from my discussion, everybody, I'm trying to avoid the word tax.
I understand.
Because why, technically speaking, finally it will go to some taxing authority to say yes or no. And they would say anything but this. So better not to the word tax. It may finally take its own way when people, just like when GST came, good or bad, many people in tax department themselves first resisted, leave alone political person. But then when they found that yes, they are there and they will be there in the system, then of course it became at least acceptable to the
I agree. I think this should go down pretty well with all sections of society.
Yeah, I want to express that, since it is being done with the sole purpose of development, with the sole purpose of not burdening any of the exchequers. Because, let us talk about the other thing which Mr. Suneet pointed out. There's a huge debt sitting on both state and central government, and nobody is talking about it, and they're just building it by every day. Even the smallest state has got something like 1 lakh crores. Their 1 lakh crore is supposed to be something like a minimum denomination. And bigger state has got Maharashtra, such a developed state, such a well-knit state. This has got 522 lakh crores. My God, it is such a huge amount, and it's building by the day. So, and why people are not talking of any of this? Of course, this is finally from the people. They have taken loan from the people of the various schemes, not any external debt. External debt is 3 lakh crores. That also I saw. Whether some other country like China will come and eat away India saying this much debt you owe. External debts are very low. Even the 3 lakh crores India should take. When today India is no more a developing country. It is a developed country. It has got its own resources. It has got, when Indians can, so-called rule is not a real good word, be at the top of things in any part of the world. Why should we get into this particular aspect? So the second, of course, is Suneetji. Any further comment on this or the division? I have suggested some small division that 20% for 10% for the banks, so that banks will first say, what am I doing this for? 10% of such a big planned amount is very large. 20% I have suggested for infrastructure. 20% for defense, because anything to do with defense is something which is good for the country. Automatically, so many people get into it. Then about 10% for education, skill development, healthcare, 10%, and then 10% for state and central government, and 10% for RBI, because RBI is after all the holder of India's economy. So that by that, what I have tried to do is that system which may try to say why, they will also get returns out of it, whatever comes, whether the number is in that level in which we are talking, or even if it is 1/100th of it, still it is very big. In the 5,000 lakh crores, if it is 50 lakh crores is also very big. Our India's total tax collection is 34 lakh crores. So even that 1/100th of it is also very big. So if it starts moving, it'll be good. Suneetji, now your second.
See, I think our perspective here should be to get it started. The moment we start about putting it to this use and that use, as you are very well aware, there are lots of lobbies in the system which develop for or against it. Okay. So it's good to have an efficient method in place. And I think, initially let us suggest it as cess, because then all cess has lesser confusion, tax has a lot of debate over it, etc. So that could be the other perspective. I think the other issue which I would like to highlight, Mr. Ashutosh raised this issue, STT, share transaction tax. Now, the share transaction tax was done to obviate capital gains. Okay, the whole concept of capital gains tax was made as if you are disinvesting after 1 year, there is no capital gains tax as long as you are paying STT. This is what Chidambaram had originally done. And according to me, it was a marvelous thing because capital recycling back into the markets, etc., was happening far more seamlessly. My whole perspective in this is, I'm not, there are indirect taxes like corporate tax and other things, which are legitimate. But personal tax, and then you have indirect taxes, and then you have capital gains tax. So if you look at the effective tax on an individual, Kautilya's principle says chautha, the effective tax that a person pays should not be more than 25. And his logic was that if it becomes more than chautha, then states' returns are diminishing because the guy starts under-reporting or avoiding. Many years later, maybe about 10 or 15 years back, Arthur Laffer from Harvard, I think, wrote an interesting piece of paper of saying there are diminishing public finance returns or income returns to government the moment tax revenue starts going above 25%. And he said that the optimal, and at 30+%, it starts dropping, which means 25 to 30 is the optimal range at which you talk, which is very similar to what Kautilya's Arthashastra was talking about. And I think all that we have to, we sometimes say we are taxing this much here, this much there, etc. But what we need to focus more is not so much on taxation. And this is where this initiative is good. You want to encourage velocity of money. You want to encourage rapid transactions. You want to encourage rapid cyclicality. The money goes back into creating more economic activity. The moment you capture it away from by tax in a method of expenditure, which may not be as efficient, which is in the government, then what happens is that it suddenly goes out and it's out of the velocity and circulation. The more money you leave in the system, the more it will circulate. What are people going to do? They're not going to take it to heaven. They're going to spend money. They're going to create wealth. And I think we should incentivize expenditure or investments, and as opposed to just creating methods of having to pay more and more tax. If we can avoid personal income tax, by the way, personal income tax was introduced in one of the wars, I'm forgetting the reason. And so it was created at that time, and then suddenly, it has now acquired a universal acceptance. So its relevance is not there because we are not a country at a war immediately, but still, we have other indirect taxes, transaction taxes, which is what should be there. You remove personal tax, you remove capital gains, all capital generating activity effectively will be back to private citizen, and they will make best use of it and maybe create more wealth for the nation, and therefore create more income by way of transaction taxes. So I personally feel that in the long run, we should look at how this can start replacing some of these taxes, which actually there's a greater challenge of collection. And it also is creating a lot of unreported income problem. And a lot of man hours of are going in, as Ashutosh said, for submitting our tax returns for simple things or preparing it and looking for this, looking for that. Whereas a simpler method of implementation will save a lot of man hours. I mean, I can only tell you that I have a small consulting outfit and I have a small this thing. It takes me at least for my own and my family's taxes and this thing to prepare all the things in order to be able to do it. It takes me 1 week full of work, okay, to collect all information, supporting document, this, that, and the other, and then preparing it in a manner that it can be given. So I suppose I could put it to better use if there were this was not required as an alternative.
Thank you, Ashutosh.
Yeah, Dr. Sekhar, that is what we all sync together on. If we can get one more monkey off our back in terms of being put on the mat every time to see whether we did the right calculations, in spite of all our salary coming through a Form 16 with nothing in hand to really play around with. Imagine the plight of a businessman, a retail shopkeeper, an individual who is on his own. I find it so much of a challenge to put together all my AIRs and all my various collections. Let's make life simpler for individuals. Let's make it convenient for people to do real wealth creation. We would be in a different world. And as I had told you about, anything in terms of digitization needs solid backbone and always up connectivity. And we have discussed and debated about it a lot. Our idea of creating the Mishti Dohi, the digital highway of India. So we are on that mission again. So we would make this compliance easier.
Yeah. So coming to a concluding portion, because one of the words which Suneet used, the velocity of money. Finally, the whole economy is about velocity of money. Okay, why is this credit card with all its other fear of sabotage and crime and all? Still, one would like to use. If I use credit card or any of these type of transaction, the money which is there with me in the morning, by 11 o'clock it goes to somebody. By 11:30 it goes to somebody. By 12 o'clock it goes to somebody. On a day it rotates 10 times. In the other system, a person goes and buys a grocery. After 1 month he gives a check. That takes another 3 days to cash in. And then the whole money is not here. In a day it goes 10 times. There in a month it goes once. Okay, same thing is true for any of the conventional old systems. In fact, this thought process was there almost 10, 12 years back. But the flow of money was so little at the time, like somebody called Akram, he has done beautiful job he had done. But he talks of 2%. Now, 2% nobody will pay. Even here, another point which I was going to say, another chairman of another bank was saying, this will bring another tax. I said, no, this is only 0.01%. He said, fine. Then another point which he said was, some of our banks do have even 0.2% only we gain by the transaction, and they are very big. I said, here I'm still talking of 0.01 to 0.001. And even I'm putting a footnote that in special conditions, it can be even rationalized. He said, well, then it is good. That means that it is not a binding thing. At the same time, when the money flow goes faster, it is not that the Reserve Bank has printed, 4 lakh crores rupee in the system. The money is going so fast in the system that it gets multiplied. It is just like today digital era. Digital era, I'm talking here, means it can be blasted in 10,000 locations. Whereas in a normal thing, it's only the 100 people who are sitting in front of you would be hearing. Same thing on a monetary system. It gets to multiplied, and each multiplication gives a small fraction it leaves behind. And the small fraction becomes a huge. And we have also provided 10% for the bankers to have any of their work, any of this thing, any other way in which money has to be used, money has to be refunded, money has to be, the buffering can be done. Like you rightly said, we don't have to go too much into detail because the detailing may sabotage the main problem. But things are in that level. So last night, any comment?
Yeah, just a thing that you were talking about credit cards. I think the fact payment gateways like payment methodologies like GPay or Paytm and PhonePe, etc. Let me tell you that the digital transfer industry is rapidly increasing. At least I can tell you that in my own case, all my vendor purchases, my own household purchases, they're all using this now. Not even credit card, not even bank transfer. It's all GPay, Paytm, or PhonePe kind of thing. So I think this is also going to create a different. I mean, the digital platform is actually going to increase the velocity of money, and I think it's therefore only fair that if we are helping the citizens getting a faster turnaround, that we just capture a small fraction for the betterment and maybe reduce taxes elsewhere.
Good. Ashutosh, last comment.
All for it, sir. Let's make it happen.
Yeah.
Yes.
Okay. So just to give the last minute conclusion. So in continuation of this velocity of transaction, because like I said, the bank does not print so much money. So velocity of transactions will be good. Anybody having one transaction and the transaction comes back to you, maybe it is just husband-wife transaction, but it comes back to you in a 0.01%. People should not object. And last but not the least is here our whole debt, whether it is personal or government, or because government debt is finally our debt. Because when we say that 5,300 crores, 5,300 lakh crores is sitting, and it is something not being debated, like Suneet said, and it is something which is there to be taken care of, if not we, by our children. And
our kids will pay.
and at least in secure governance, I'm talking of 200 years of prosperity of Indians, and I would like to see even the 7th generation, which may come in the 200-year prosperity, should not have to be told that no, today it is not 5,000. We are all leaving a debt of 50,000 lakh crores. So which should all by all fair means not be there. At the same time, the life will be far better, far easier. But I don't want to initially talk of any of this as a replacement of taxes. Let it get its own evolved out, so people are placed properly. People think on a positive note. And with that, let me thank both of you, and let us see if some such thing comes in place and things to go forward. Thank you so much.
Thank you very much. Thanks a lot. Have a wonderful day ahead. Take care. Bye-bye.
You too.
Good day.
You too.
Good day. Good day.